Hello, my name is Joyce Landry, and welcome to segment 3 of the Future of Cruising Sustainable Ship Series, where we highlight the cruise lines that are leading the way in sustainability. Today, we're featuring Virgin Voyages, a new cruise line that was about to launch their first ship, the Scarlet Lady, when the world was interrupted by COVID-19. From what we understand, they have taken this time to get ready with their ship with healthy, sustainable initiatives. And our guest is here to speak about that because she has been in the forefront. I first just wanted to mention that this is a recorded session. The session that we had on live earlier this morning had technical difficulties. And so we decided to re-record this so that we would have it on our site for anyone who had registered already. So with us today is Jill Stoneberg, Director, Sustainability and Social Impact for Virgin Voyages. I'd like to welcome Jill on the program. Welcome, Jill.
Hi, Joyce. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Really nice to have you. I first wanted to point out that both of us are from South Florida, so we're in the epicenter right now of the whole COVID virus situation, but I believe we're all working from home still, yes?
Yes.
And taking care of ourselves and our families the best way that we can. But your title, Director of Sustainability and Social Impact, is really interesting. And I'm sure that people would like to know, how did you get that? How did you start to work with Virgin? What's your background? And, how did this happen?
Well, first of all, I feel really lucky and really fortunate to have this title and to be in this position to look at ways that we can improve business through the lens of sustainability. But I'm relatively new to the cruising industry. So I started my career off in renewable energy and did that for some time. And my focus was helping businesses and organizations choose renewable energy as a way to green up their footprint. And through that experience, I learned that I wanted to focus more on just where energy comes from, but I really wanted to focus on all aspects of sustainability and really how sustainability and business can be a force for good. Mm-hmm. So after doing renewable energy, I pursued my degree in an MBA in responsible business, and then went on to hold corporate responsibility positions for software and technology companies, and then was recruited by Virgin a few years later. So it's been a great journey so far. I've been with the company for about 2 years and really excited to share a little bit more with you today.
Well, we're glad that you're there. I know I've spoken a little bit more to you than other people who are tuning in today. So I understand the impact that you're making with Virgin, and we look forward to hearing more about that. I'd like to actually ask you if you could tell us a little bit about the demographics of Virgin for those who aren't aware. Like, what is it about Virgin that is changing up and kind of coming into the cruise industry as a change agent? It's something we've all been hearing about, and we'd like to know a little more. And I'm going to have you ask you to do that as we start loading your visuals.
Sure. So Virgin goes into different industries that need to be disrupted. So you'll notice that with our offering, we do things a little bit differently than what is currently in the industry. Perhaps one of the more striking differences is that we are what's called adult by design. And so we don't have a specific age group that we target, but you have to be at least 18 or older to be on board Scarlet Lady. And we are really targeting people that are looking for an elevated experience and also have a curiosity to try something new. So we say we're looking for the young at heart. And we believe that this is really an untapped market that's out there that we're serving.
And you are. I know that we've all been talking about the no child policy, and you'll probably have equally as many people who are so excited about that as who are saying, what?
Well, speaking as a parent, I can say that, I do look forward to a vacation without my precious children. We all need breaks.
I totally agree with you.
And in terms of then the culture and foundation for how we're aiming to create a sea change, if you could forward to the next slide, it really does come down to how the company was founded. Even before I arrived, this foundation was there really from the beginning. And it's our compass for making decisions as a business. It's our brand purpose. It's what we are aiming to achieve in terms of a long-term vision. So we define our brand purpose as creating an epic sea change for all. And so by epic, we mean that this should be transformational. It should be grand in scale. By sea change, we mean that this is a magical striking of change for the better that's brought on by the sea. And for all, we mean that this positive change is for both people and for the planet. And so we've defined what we think an epic sea change looks like according to these 5 key stakeholder pillars that are here up on the screen. And those are our oceans, our communities, our sailors, our crew, and our partners. And I'll talk a little bit more in the following slides on examples and proof points of what sea change looks like as it relates to each one of these pillars. But really, in a nutshell, we're aiming to change sailing for good in many different ways, and that this is really positive change for everyone. Mm-hmm. So starting off with the way that our ship has even been designed, we're fortunate in that we're starting this business from scratch. So all of our ships are brand new. And our first ship was, as you mentioned, supposed to launch in February of this year. And we've put that on hold until October. But we have the latest state-of-the-art technology on board. We have a fuel-efficient hull design, and really a lot of intentional choices were made from the very beginning in terms of how that ship was designed and how it operates. So as an example, we are very proud to be one of the first cruise lines to use a technology called Climb-On. And Climb-On uses heat that's generated from the ship's engines to generate electricity. And when Climb-On is working, that means that we don't need to burn as much fuel to generate electricity for use on board the ship.
I also wanted to point out, while the ship is dramatic looking, it is a bit smaller than a lot of the other ships that have been launched in the last year or so. Tell us the size.
Yeah, so our ships are what we call a mid-size ship. So at full capacity, this would hold about 2,770 passengers, or what we call sailors. So we are on the smaller side, and really the ship has been designed to have more of a yacht-like feel. Think about a boutique hotel experience. It looks and feels very different. And then the other thing I just wanted to point out too in terms of sustainability is that we acknowledge that one of the biggest impacts on the environment that we have as a business is our impact on climate change, since unfortunately at this time, ships still run on fossil fuels, and there just isn't the technology that's available at scale to change that. So we've decided that while we are working with the industry to pursue zero and low emission, low carbon technologies, we wanted to take immediate action on climate change. And so we decided to become carbon neutral, and we're the first cruise line to do that from our first day of commercial operation as a company. And so we purchased carbon offsets in the equivalent of what we anticipate our carbon footprint to be, and those carbon offsets come from renewable energy projects that are sourced from destinations where our crew are from, and also from places where we sail.
And good for you, because I don't hear those words climate change uttered a lot by the cruise industry. So it's nice to hear it spoken about, because the only way that we're going to get through this is by acknowledging that it even is there.
And it's the greatest threat facing a lot of life in general, but the oceans in particular. Mm-hmm. And we really want to be a champion for the ocean. So we know this is an important first step, and there's more that needs to be done, but we're doing what we can today. In terms of how you would experience then sustainability as a sailor on board our ship, probably one of those first experiences would be when you enter into your cabin. So we have built energy sensors and smart technology and design throughout the ship. But when you enter your cabin, what you'll notice is that right away upon entering, the curtains open, the lights turn on, and the temperature will adjust to a more comfortable setting. And then when you leave your cabin, the sensors know that you've left. So the curtains automatically close, the lights turn off, and the temperature setting will increase, thereby conserving electricity, so not keeping it quite as cool in the cabins. And this is something that's just baked into the experience. You don't have to fiddle with any controls. It just happens automatically, because we've really built an experience that is also a smart and digital experience. So the picture on the left-hand side is our wearable that every sailor will wear. And it's really your key to experiences on board. It allows you to get into your cabin. It allows you to pay for things on board. And we also have an app that complements that experience where you find a lot of information in terms of shore excursions and other features on board the ship and how to make a dinner reservation, for example.
Well, and that wristband is awfully good looking. I'm going to suspect that that's going to become a trendsetter and will be a status symbol for anybody that cruises with Virgin.
We certainly hope so. We're really proud of the design. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback on it. And it's also something that when we were looking at this, we really wanted this band to also have a social impact or impact story. And fortunately, we were able to find a supplier that was able to make the rope out of marine and coastal plastic. So that's not something that we really highlight, but it is a nice story that goes along with that band experience that when you're wearing that band, what it represents is the removal of 2 pounds of marine and coastal plastic from the environment.
Wow, good.
And there's other subtle ways, too, that we've incorporated sustainability into how we have sourced materials for the cabin. I mentioned creative uses of recycled and repurposed ocean plastic. We really want to be part of the solution of the ocean plastic problem. And one of those ways that we are doing that is that from the very beginning, we've designed an experience for our sailors that has banned the use of single-use plastics. So from the beginning, like I said, we thought through what would the experience look like if we didn't allow single-use plastics on board. And so we did away with single-use plastic water bottles, cutlery, to-go containers, plastic bags, straws, and instead, sailors will be delivered fresh, still, and sparkling water right to their rooms. And sailors will have access to water bottle refill stations on board the ship. And in the showers in the cabins, you'll find that it's refillable soap and shampoo dispensers. And then any item that we decided when we did our analysis that we wanted to keep because of a convenience, because of an experience, we made sure that those items were sourced from environmentally responsible materials. So some people don't know that even like a coffee cup, when you get your coffee to go in the morning, in most cases, it does have a petroleum-based single-use plastic liner. But we decided that we wanted even to look at that component and make sure that while we still wanted to offer coffee to go, because there's a certain ritual associating with getting your coffee to go in the morning if you choose not to have a mug, we wanted to make sure that it was sourced in the most sustainable way as possible.
And it just feels so good knowing that you're doing good. I wanted to point out that there are a couple of cruise lines that I know of that have said that they have a no plastic policy, but it's more of a long range goal. And some are rolling that out a little by little, but you are the only ones that I know of that right out of the box are coming out with a banning single-use plastics, because you are new and you can.
Yeah, we certainly have that advantage to really think about the design of the experience, from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. But we're really pleased to see that other cruise lines are also making efforts along these lines. It's an important step. Now, on the next slide, just to talk about, we're talking about banning of single-use plastics, but just in terms of our approach to waste in general and designing the experience to eliminate waste is we want to eliminate waste in the first place. So another very intentional choice that was made early on was the elimination of food buffets. You will not find a buffet on board our ship. Not only do they generate waste, but we also feel that it's a better experience to be able to have your food made to order and to be able to explore different restaurants or what we call eateries. So instead of having a large dining hall or buffets, we have 20 unique eateries on board that offer fresh ingredients, thoughtfully sourced ingredients, because we're also looking at understanding where our food comes from and making sure that we're being intentional about those choices as well, to make sure that they're sustainable choices. And then we know that wellness is really important to our sailors as well. So we are making sure that at each eatery, there's at least one vegetarian and vegan item on the menu.
What's interesting is that it's not that your no food buffet came up as a COVID response, which is what other cruise lines are doing. You never had that. It wasn't designed that way. And so you don't have to retool buffet areas into something else. You just don't have them. So right. I find that very interesting that you're really already set up to enter into our new world reality.
That's exactly right. So we're still committed to no food buffets, and it works very well in the COVID scenario, which we'll talk about near the end of the presentation. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I just wanted to highlight on this slide is that this is a picture here of our Impossible Burger. And you'll find this at our restaurant venue called Razzle Dazzle, which is a very vegetarian forward restaurant experience. And in fact, you'll find some items on the menu that sound like they're made with meat, but in fact aren't at all. So it's quite a fun venue on board the ship.
I look forward to that. I'm a non-meat eater myself, and it's nice to know that I can eat anywhere on board. I like that.
And so not only do we want to make sure in the hardware that we choose, the technologies that we choose, the design of the ship, that it's minimizing our energy footprint, our waste footprint, and our water footprint, which I didn't talk about, but that's also a focus. We want to make sure that we're not just focused on that, but we're also part of the solution in terms of leaving the oceans better off, protecting our oceans, restoring ocean health. And so this slide highlights a couple of other commitments that we've made on that front. So for example, we only sell reef-safe sunscreens on board the ship. And this is a passion point for Richard Branson. He at a very early on said, you must offer reef-safe sunscreen. So we made that commitment from the beginning to only carry that type of sunscreen on board. And we are working with our food provider to make sure that the fish and the seafood that we source is sustainably and responsibly sourced. And then we work with nonprofit organizations and support the global ambition to protect 30% of the world's oceans by 2030. So just like there's climate change targets for reducing emissions, there's a movement to ensure that at least 30% of the world's oceans will be protected by 2030. And we endorse that goal. We want to be part of that reality. And so through nonprofit partnerships, they're guiding us on organizations that are committed to establishing marine protected areas and then engaging our sailors in ways that they can support that effort and be educated on what they can do to support ocean health.
And, speaking of movements, there's also a movement afoot, which I think you could read about anywhere, that there's growing consumer interest in buying based on their values. And when consumers see that they can feel good about their choices, their purchasing choices, I think you're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, and Virgin is really what we call a lifestyle brand. So a lifestyle brand is one where consumers might make decisions to align or purchase your product because they believe that it's really a reflection of themselves. Mm-hmm. And so on the next slide, you'll see that we tell our story through the businesses that we choose to enter into partnerships with. So on board the ship, there's several different examples of stories, unique sustainability-oriented stories throughout the experience. Because we know that like-minded partnerships, not only do they help tell our story, but they also amplify the impact that we can have. Mm-hmm. So one example of that is our coffee partner. Our coffee partner is Intelligentsia, and they are a direct trade coffee partner. So that means that not only do they ensure that they offer a fair wage, but they offer beyond a fair wage, so more than a fair trade type of relationship. And they educate their small shareholder farms on how to increase their crop yields, how to grow their products more sustainably. So we're really proud to be working with them and support the good work that they're doing. Sustainability is often seen as an environmental issue, but it also has social and economic implications. So these examples here are very well-rounded examples of how the impact goes beyond just environmental impact.
And we're very involved in this too, in our sustainability with our website, sustainableships.com, because we actually are providing a guide so that consumers can see how the ships kind of stack up, against sustainability practices. And something that has been a bugaboo to me for a while is going on a ship and having they claim to be sustainable and then going into one of the shops, which are concessions, and to walk away with a plastic bag or to walk away with plastic packaging, or even to walk away from their so-called coffee shop on board that's not their own, but someone else's, to have plastic there because they don't control it. And when you really make your own partners accountable for that, and it's fully holistic, it does make a difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know there's always room to improve in that space. So part of the partnerships that we look for are those that are open and rewarding, as we call it. So we want to make sure that we're continuing to learn from each other and we're committed to continuous improvement. Mm-hmm. The other example I wanted to highlight on this slide is that the majority of our cabins are balcony cabins. And what you'll find on the cabin is this beautiful red hammock that's been made by a company called Yellow Leaf. And Yellow Leaf works with women in rural Thailand to put together these hammocks. They're hand woven and very comfortable. They are for sale in our retail stores.
Of course they are.
But each one is hand signed by the artisan. And this is a group of women that would not otherwise have a source of employment if it weren't for the Yellow Leaf brand. And then aside from that, there's several other examples of brands that you can find on board in our retail shops that have a commitment to either sustainability or social impact. When we did an assessment, at least 25% of those brands that we sell on board do align with a sustainability or social impact commitment. Mm-hmm. Next slide, please. And so continuing on the thread of social impact, another core part of creating a sea change is looking at how we interact with our communities and how do we benefit the communities where we sail and wanting to leave communities better off. And so our ambition in this space is that we really want to be that ship that a community loves to see in port. And we want these communities to benefit economically, and in other ways from our presence. So this is a picture on the right of our shore guide. It's our port guide where we feature local eateries, authentic places to explore and really discover the true flavor of that destination. We have worked hand in hand with entrepreneurs in each one of our ports of call to make sure that we're curating these unique experiences, smaller oriented tours that really showcase what's unique and special about that destination. And then we also work hand in hand with our providers to make sure that they're on board with adhering to our code of conduct, which outlines social and environmental considerations or our standards of what's required to do business with us. So an example of that is upholding animal welfare standards. We have a minimum standard that we ask all of our shore excursion providers to adhere to. And an example of that is that as a matter of policy, we will not promote tours that feature captive dolphins or captive swim with programs.
And bravo, good on you. That has been something that's been a concern for many years, and it's going to take someone to take a stand on that. So really, good work on that. I also wanted to mention that there are people watching our program who are corporate meeting planners, corporate event planners, and they have a mission to really align with their own corporate sustainability policies. And that means that they usually go out of their way to try to find places that they can contribute when they go to the ports of call. We've been involved in a number of those. And it looks like you'd be a great partner for that. And they could even possibly use your app to upload ways that they could be helping out in the environment locally and helping out with schools or whatever. I mean, this is really a great step in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an area that we want to continue to build and grow. And there's a lot of opportunities to do good.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide, please. So this slide really highlights, the importance of our crew and focusing on crew well-being and the culture that we're creating as a company. And so Dive Into Different is one of our crew creeds. It's a motto that we live by, that we embrace all forms of diversity and inclusion. And an example of that is a commitment to make sure that there's equal opportunity for everyone, and also to help bridge the gender gap in the industry, in particular on shipboard roles and in marine technical or deck engineering positions. So we know that there's work to do in this space, but we're really committed to being a leader and putting in place initiatives to advance those goals forward. But overall, crew, our philosophy is that we should all feel like we're part of a family at Virgin Voyages. And so we know that if we take care of our crew and we treat them like family, that they will in turn treat our sailors, our customers, really well with exceptional experience. So some of the things that we've put in place to ensure that we're creating that family culture and we're having this be a job that they love is that we don't have stripes. You will not find stripes on our uniforms. We want everyone to have equal voice and equal say because their voice matters. Everyone has access to free wireless. That's not something that crew has to pay for to stay connected to their friends and family at home. Our crew have access to the same quality of food that we have for our sailors. They have access to workout facilities, mental health resources, that well-being aspect that we promote on board the ship. So, we, again, really prioritize this space of crew welfare and making sure that our crew are proud to work at Virgin and are well taken care of.
That's admirable. And from someone who's cruised for many years, I can vouch for my own cruising experience that when you're on a happy ship, you know that it's a happy crew. And the more you take care of them, the more they will take care of your guests over and over and over again. And I just wanted to say that it must have been especially heartbreaking, given how much you really care for your crew, that they were not able to get out and deliver the experience of your inaugural because of the COVID virus, and everything had to come to a halt and be on pause for a couple of months. And but I do understand that you've taken the ship back to Genoa now to repatriate crew, which is terrific, to get them back to their families.
Yeah, it was really challenging circumstances with rules that were put in place. And so we're fortunate that we were able to take an alternative path and repatriate our crew so they could be back with their families as soon as possible. And the response that we've received from our crew, while there's been a lot of disappointment with the turn of events, with not being able to launch as planned. Everyone, I think we're doing a good job of creating that culture, that we wanted to create, because everyone was overwhelmingly positive about their experience on board with us, about the training that they received, and the majority of them will be coming back when it's time to sail.
Good to know.
Next slide. So this slide really just highlights that when it comes to sustainability and social impact, we just want this to be so baked into the experience. And I think that that's really what I've tried to communicate during this presentation, so that people can just enjoy themselves. You can just have a vacation, what we say, guilt-free indulgence. We've thought about where their food comes from, where their products come from, how the ship operates. They don't have to worry about any of it. They don't have to feel guilty about any of it. They can just enjoy their vacation and indulge. And a key component of this, again, is that we offer those wellness experiences that we know are of interest to the target customer that we have. And so you'll find a lot of opportunities on board to tap into wellness, as well as to kind of on the flip side, enjoy themselves, let loose. We call it detox, retox. But, you know, looking at that health and wellness lens, we know that that's going to be top of mind as we go back into operation, especially in light of COVID-19. And so I'll take a moment to share with you some of the preparations that we've put in place to ensure that we are maintaining that health and wellness standard that's so important. So here this highlights our approach, what we're calling Voyage Well, and it's our new measures of health processes and standards that we've put in place. And some of it is standards that we've already had because of how we designed the experience. But starting really at the right-hand top corner, our ambition here when it comes to returning into operation is to be able to test everyone before they board the ship, to make sure that we are preventing bringing COVID on board as much as possible. We also, because we are a new ship, we've designed the ship with access to fresh air throughout the cabins. But we've taken that to the next level and have just entered into a partnership with a company called Atmos Air Solutions, who not only filters the air, but also has this ionization technology that has the ability to kill almost 100% of airborne pathogens. So that technology just is getting installed and is a first in the industry. We'll be implementing social distancing measures on board the ship to keep passengers safe. We'll be operating at a lower capacity until it's safe to resume back to full capacity. We have installed more hand sanitizers on board the ship so that you have access to that in every public space. Still no food buffets, as we've talked about before. And then because we've really engineered our experience to be very digital with the wearable and with the app, some of the things that we're able to do that were part of the plan from the beginning are virtual queues, for example. So when you're booking your dinner reservation, you'll never have to stand in line. There's a virtual queue for that. And then contactless payments, you're not having to exchange cash because everything is just taken care of for you on your wearable device. And then we've always had very high cleaning standards, and that's true of the cruise industry. We've been fogging spaces well before COVID was part of the picture. So we're enhancing those measures through our partnership with Ecolab to make sure that we're taking the additional precautions necessary to kill the virus and prevent it from spreading.
Mm-hmm. Now, I understand from what I've read that Virgin, from the very beginning, came into this wanting to have more intimate experiences with smaller, more restaurants, more entertainment areas, so that it was never meant to have very, very large crowds together at any one given time. So It's not something you have to redo. It's just where you're coming from. So that's really great. And I wanted to introduce the video that we have coming up, which is called Voyage Well. And it is all about what you've just discussed in a video format, so that everyone can see exactly what you're planning. And I want to commend you for this, because we haven't seen anyone in the cruise industry yet come out with something that's that specific. And I think it will be very interesting for everybody to see. Well, I can tell you, I certainly look forward to my first experience on Virgin. It will be well worth waiting for.
Yeah, we can't wait. So we just have to make sure it's the right time.
Yeah, and it will be. It will be. Sounds like you're doing a great job getting toward that. We do have some questions that came up when we did the live cast earlier today, and we noted them down so that we can still address those for those who were not able to see it earlier. So the first question is, when are you cruising again?
So our current launch date is October 16th will be our first revenue sailing. And we're working closely with CDC and other authorities to make sure that we're able to launch as planned on that date. But we know that in this uncertain time, we have to remain flexible, but that is currently our plan.
Okay. And Scarlet Lady is number one.
Mm-hmm.
How many more? Any names you'd like to throw out there?
Yeah, so we have Valiant Lady coming online next year. And then after that, there will be an additional 2 ships, pretty much 1 year consecutively after each one. But we have not yet shared the names of those other 2 ships.
Okay, and they're going to be similar, correct?
Yeah, they're all a replica of Scarlet Lady.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Someone else asked about doctors on board. Do you have them?
We do. We have an onboard medical team. Our provider is Vicant. They're one of our advisors as we look to how to make sure we're creating a health and a safe experience for everyone. So they are on board the ship 24/7. We have 2 doctors and 3 nurses, I believe, to be exact with the numbers. And that facility you have access to as a sailor 24/7.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to throw one of my questions out there, and that is because we've had it asked of ourselves when we've done these programs, how much will the sustainable forward movement be stopped or be hampered by COVID-19 and having to put out more maybe disposables, more PPE? Like, how much more is going to be needed from the cruise lines that could actually affect the sustainable practices?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one that we're certainly keeping top of mind as we make business decisions. You know, we may need to be using additional PPE as a perfect example where it would be creating more waste. But we're evaluating ways that we can make sure that that waste is minimized as much as possible. So the important consideration for us is, 1, sustainability is always there. It's always part of the decision making. And 2, we'll do everything that we can to minimize impacts. But we remain committed to all the sustainability practices that we've put in place, and we're not planning on rolling back any of those commitments.
That's good to hear. That's very good to hear, because it could be used, as a reason to not be able to put some of these into practice. But as long as that's a commitment, then you'll work around that.
That's right.
Yeah, that's great. So I'd like to actually end the questions with a comment, and this was by someone who wrote in and said that they've been in the industry for 15 years and they had tears of joy watching the presentation. They've recently discovered how important sustainability is, and they were very much encouraged by our program today and thanked us for making it available. So good work, Jill. Thank you for being on our program.
Yeah, well, we have an amazing team at Virgin. Sustainability is really part of everyone's job, and thank you so much for sharing those comments. We really value the strides that we've taken, and we hope it will be an inspiration for others, and it will move the whole industry forward.
Well, thank you for being with us today. Really appreciate your time and all of your very insightful comments. Thank you, Jill.
Thank you, Joyce. Take care.
Thanks. I would like to mention that our next segment coming up is going to feature Nick Rose, Director, Environmental Programs and Environmental Stewardship at Royal Caribbean International, and he will be talking about the Royal Caribbean brands and how they are faring during this time and what they're doing specifically in the area of sustainability and coming back after COVID with all of their ships and to manage everything for their passengers on board. So I wanted to also mention that we have social media. We appreciate everything that everyone has done for us in liking us and being a part of our social media. Please keep that up. We appreciate that. And remain involved. You can log on to our website and become a member of our website, and we'll make sure to keep you up to date on sustainable practices of the cruise industry as we start building out that site. And we'd like to thank you for watching today and look forward to seeing you again soon. Be sustainable.